Ladies and gentlemen, to say that Pirate Software has been having a bad month is a gross understatement. This guy gets himself into more trouble than anyone else on the internet because he simply can't put his ego aside and just admit that he was wrong. That's the one thing that Pirate Software needs to be able to do, and he seems to be incapable. Which, if you're going to be a content creator and you're going to make mistakes, you have to be able to take criticism, take accountability, and admit you were wrong. This is basic 101. If you say something that is not true, you have to have the humility to come before your audience and say, I was wrong, or you're going to lose all credibility. This is something that everyone already knows. Well, Notch, who is the creator of Minecraft, one of the biggest indie games in the world, a game that came from nothing and generated more numbers, more money, more sales, more interest than any game on the market. It's been absolutely incredible. So Minecraft creator Notch responded to Pirate Software's disapproval of the Stop Killing Games campaign. If buying a game is not a purchase, then pirating them is not theft. Brilliant. Now, 5 or 10 years ago, my position on pirated content was very different. I was against it. I was somebody that believed that it was stealing. I thought that it was stealing. That if you didn't go by, official means, then you were doing something wrong. My position has changed for a couple reasons, and some people may think that they're valid reasons, some people may not. Number one, I think that the quality of content has degraded because of woke left-wing activists infiltrating every form of media, that pirating software, whether it be, video games or movies or, anime, whatever, that it's not that bad. Because you are making a choice not to pay for this content. Besides the fact that I've also matured on this, and I don't think that paying for entertainment should deprive you of culture. So basically, if you're poor and you don't have the money, I don't think that I'm in any position to be like, yeah, well, you can't watch this movie. You can't see this piece of art because, not saying that modern movies are pieces of art. They're more like pieces of shit. But I don't think that you should be deprived of art just because you don't have the money to pay for it. And I know that there's a fine line there. I understand that if everyone started pirating games, then nobody would make them because no one would make any money. But if you don't have any money, if you're somebody that is dirt poor, I have no problem with you pirating games so that you can consume that content and you can get something, out of culture as well. I don't think that not having money should deprive you of that. And there are many other reasons why I've come around on pirating content. I wouldn't advocate for it. I'm not telling you to go out there and do it, but I've definitely lessened and softened my stance. And Stop Killing Games for me is not even about pirating. It's not even about that. Stop Killing Games is a movement that says, you can't steal from me. I bought this game. I should be able to play it. If you cut off services, fine, but you shouldn't be allowed to kill the game that I paid full price for.
Creator Notch responded to Pirate Software's disapproval of Stop Killing Games campaign. Jesus, 213,000 likes. If buying a game is not a purchase, then pirating them is not theft. Again, it's fucking bullshit that they're trying to tell you that they're gonna own your game whenever you fucking bought it, man. Pirate Software has spoken out against it, saying it will damage all live service games. Well, you don't have to sell it anymore. I was already sold. Read his first response. Let me see what he says. Minecraft creator Notch has made fun of Pirate Software for the streamer's ridiculous stance against stop killing games. Just verifying that, yes, that is what I was talking about. So he even went back to like double down. Were you shitting on Pirate Software? Yes. Yes, that's exactly what I was doing.
Well, absolutely. Absolutely. It's a completely understandable and reasonable position. Pirate Software, whether you want to call him an industry plant, a Nepo baby, a furry, whatever you want to call him, the fact of the matter is that Pirate Software is taking a position against the gamer, against the consumer, against the customer. That it's unreasonable that the game should be preserved in some form of playable state. That people who purchased the game, paid their hard-earned money, shouldn't get to continue to have access to it. Now, gaming is in an interesting position, but this is a problem of the developer's own making. They make these live service games. Gamers don't beg or demand live service games, by the way. That is a strictly game industry phenomenon where they take something like Suicide Squad, one of the worst games in years. They make it into a live service because that's the vision that they have. And then the game goes under. Well, what happens to all the money that you put into it? What happens to that investment? Well, it's gone. Well, it shouldn't be gone. If you are dumb enough to buy that game and you still want to play it, you should be allowed to.
And I've seen this before. Pirate Software responds to code G. There's even...
Is this going to help you? You mean the guy who's never used Game Maker Studio, doesn't know Game Maker language, and talked a lot of shit but was wrong? It's just another, YouTube grifter trying to fight for relevance, dude. That's all that shit is.
But anyway, it's a real graph. Pirate lied again. Oh my god. Oh my god.
For context, Pirate Software posted graphs trying to prove how his videos had no negative impact on the Stop Killing Games initiative, and the literal creator of the original graph replied with more accurate data and showing the opposite.
Oh my god. Oh no. They have another... No! It's done! How is this still happening?
I hope that your initiative gets everything you asked for, but nothing you wanted.
What a pathetic prick. And the fact that, Asmongold of all people was defending Pirate Software. He was. He was actively going out on a limb to defend this guy. And for Pirate Software to take that olive branch, because that's what it was. Asmongold is reacting to your content and giving you the most benefit of every doubt, and you decide to spit in your hand and slap him in the face? Like, Pirate Software could have handled the situation in a number of different ways that would be genuinely intelligent and beneficial to him and his channel. What he instead does is disparage everyone, make enemies with everyone, just basically act like a feral animal, which is something that he apparently knows much about, is Moldovia's fig tree. But how on earth can you continue to double down when everything proves you wrong? And this isn't a thing of like, okay, I know I'm right about this. I know I'm right. No, he knows that he's wrong. It has been objectively pointed out and proven that he was wrong about what Stop Killing Games wanted. There's no argument. There's no debate. He doesn't even try. The only thing he says is, I said what I said and I'm sticking by it. But he has no response to, well, Stop Killing Games is not really about this. It's about this, and you misrepresented it. But now that the graph has come out and shown that it did have a devastating effect, which was obvious. It was obvious. The graph is, maybe now it's more indicative to what happened, but it's obvious. It's obvious that when you have somebody that has built themselves as a professional and an expert in this industry, and I know all of this stuff. Did you know that my dad worked at, Blizzard? My uncle worked at Nintendo. Did you know that? Oh, my dad is the guy from World of Warcraft. I worked for Blizzard for this many years. I'm this sort of expert. I know all this stuff. Like, when you bill yourself as that, and then you come into contact with conflict or problems, and you react like this ridiculous, immature, petulant weirdo, yeah, people are going to pay attention to that, and they're going to give you shit. And that is 99% of Pirate Software's problem. He had a positive reputation about a year ago. People thought that he was a good guy, that, he was pretty cool. And then they watched him have a tantrum and react in the worst possible way and just start crashing out. And that crash out has not stopped. And the fact is that now that there's another graph, now that there's more evidence, it becomes absolutely irrefutable that Pirate Software is in a hell of his own making just because he couldn't apologize and admit he was wrong. And now you have one of the biggest independent game content creators, Notch, coming out and saying, yeah, you're full of shit, and doubling down that I made fun of this guy. That's how much he doesn't like Pirate Software. He confirmed that he was making fun of Pirate Software. But I mean, this just is so completely ridiculous. And the reason why I want to continue to talk about it is because it's a teachable moment. If you're a content creator out there, and by the way, I have people emailing me all the time saying, hey, I'm a small up and coming content creator. I'm a guy that's just starting out. Like, do you have any advice for me? Do you have any? Do you have anything that you could tell me? And I mean, there are many different bits of advice I can give, but one of the big ones is that you have to be able to be humble and admit when you're wrong. If you're legitimately wrong, and it's clear that you're wrong, instead of doubling and tripling down, you've got to admit that you made a mistake. It is so important for your credibility, because if you don't, you could be the next Pirate Software.
1,000 followers. He's averaging losing 500 followers an hour. Oh my God. Wait. The graph is from averaging 15,000 viewers to averaging 5,000, minus 2K, minus 5K, minus 5K, minus 5K, minus 5K, minus 4K, minus 5K, minus 5K. Oh my God. When a streamer loses oh my God, it's every stream. When a streamer loses that many fucking follows the moment they go live, that means that Thor's going live ping is serving as a reminder for people to go to his stream and unfollow. That might be one of the biggest fall-offs I've ever seen. They stopped killing games and they started killing his own career. Holy shit.
Laughably stupid that it doesn't even make sense, and why he's acting the way he is. Starting with allegedly issuing a false DMCA takedown to an indie game creator because of a joke that he made in his game. And that's far from the only pile of trash that he's been a part of this year, with incident after incident essentially making his entire platform a certified printing press of bad takes. This dude somehow is just mass distributing negative aura. But today we're talking about Pirate Software, or Jason Thor Hall, who's a former Blizzard employee who decided to become a streamer. And
wait, he worked at Blizzard? Why did he not tell us that?
in the last few months, he's just slowly became a little bit of a laughing stock of the internet. And this is all mainly for saying dumb stuff with full confidence, getting blasted by every corner of the internet, and then doubling down like his ego is on life support and denial.
So guys, the joke is that he says it every other sentence. That's so the joke. Okay.
Is the only way that's keeping it all pumping. So let's rewind a bit, because there's a lot to this story. Months ago, Pirate was a part of a hardcore World of Warcraft guild called OnlyFangs. They were playing a new twist of World of Warcraft called Hardcore, and it's similar to how Hardcore in Minecraft works. If you die in the game, you lose everything. All the hours you spent leveling.
I want to play a game where if you die in the game, you die in real life. That would be unmissable content.
Okay. Yeah, Squid Games. Anyway, yeah, people are talking about pirate software, and the thing is, I think on some level, people wanted to give pirate software the benefit of the doubt because they did like him at one point. But when you mess up and you won't admit you were wrong and you blame everyone else and you go after everyone else and you can't take criticism and you block and ban people and then you double down again and I'm not going to have a conversation with this person. Oh, the guy from Stop Killing Games reaches out to Thor and it's like, I'd be happy to have a conversation. You're like, no, I'm not going to talk to this guy. He said something in his video I didn't like, so I'm not going to talk to him. It's like, dude, you look ridiculous. If you knew that if you had him on the program, he would be able to immediately prove that what you said about him was wrong. And not to mention the fact that Maldovia's fig tree, you're somebody on the left politically. It's obvious. You're a degenerate, you're a weirdo, you're in favor of all this other gross, creepy shit. I've heard you on several occasions talk about, furries and stuff like that. Oh, most IT techs are furries, which is, gross and depressing to think about. But the fact is that Moist Critical roasted you and disagreed with you. When you lose Moist Critical, who has a left-wing bias, when you lose that guy, you have messed up in an incalculable way. A huge way. And again, instead of taking it on the chin and being honest and being direct, you decided to shit the bed. And go all in on your ego. And guess what? Your ego is writing checks that your ass can't cash. Anyway, ladies and gentlemen, thanks for watching. See you next time.